it was all so surreal. You know, when getting on MTV, we're like, what the hell? I mean, we got on MTV. I remember Kirk giving me shit saying, man, how'd you get on MTV? We couldn't even get on MTV. Kirk was an interesting guy in high school. He was, I think a lot of people didn't even realize they went to school with the guitar player from Metallica. You know, he was a very unassuming person. But one thing we bonded over was music, you know, because I would always come in singing, you know, some Aerosmith song or something, you know, whatever, you know, popular rock thing was going on at the time. And I didn't play an instrument. And he always had all these guitar magazines. He'd be like, hey, Claypool, check it out, man. Look, this is he had showed me a picture of the guitar he was going to get into. It's a picture of a blonde Strat. Sure enough, he got the blonde Strat. He's like, man, I know the 3 key elements to success, man: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He was like Tommy Chong. He's the one that turned me on to Hendrix. He would give me cassettes. My record collection was very thin. You know, I remember joining the one of those record clubs where you get, you know, 10 albums for a penny or whatever, and then they keep trying to slip you one every month, hoping you're going to forget to send it back. So my record collection was pretty slim. So I tended to get turned on to stuff by other people, older people. And Kirk was a year older than me too. And when you're in high school, that's a big deal. He wanted me to sing for his band, which became Exodus. He gave me Cream, Sunshine of Your Love to learn. And I was just too embarrassed. I was like, I couldn't do it, you know. But in the process, he also gave me Hendrix Star Spangled Banner, and it just blew my mind, you know. So we always just kind of bonded on that level. But then I met a guy who needed a bass player, and I bought a bass, and I was instantly in a band because nobody wanted to play bass. Everybody wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. And then I left the band, and then I came back to the band at another point, and then I left the band. And then years later, while I was doing Primus, I had Primus going. We were doing pretty well locally. And then they needed a bass player for their album. They had got a record deal. They needed a bass player. So I said, they asked me to do it. And I said, I'll do it, you know, and they bought me a bass amp. That was my payment. And then it was like, oh, we got this tour. You want to do this tour? And I was like, sure, I'll do the tour. And then there was one more tour. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. But then I was kind of, you know, Primus was ramping up and doing pretty well. Then Todd Huth left, and I asked Larry Lalonde to join the band. And to be honest with you, I didn't know if he could even play, because in a metal band, you know, the second guitarist, you never even hear that guy. So, but I would hear him at sound check sometimes doing like some Zappa licks and a lot of Fripp licks. So, and he became a very good friend of mine. So I was like, fuck it, come on, Lur, you want to do it? And he's like, hell yeah. So, and that's how that came together. We were just playing like, you know, a lot of kind of obscure clubs, a lot of like kind of alternative clubs. So back then it was, you know, sort of the end of the new wave thing, you know. So we were playing like Berkeley Square. Michael Bailey, who booked the Berkeley Square, who now has been booking the Fillmore for many years, he believed in us. He almost managed us, and he would just book us because he liked us, even though we were this weird band. And he would just, if he thought it was an interesting bill, like we've opened for the Swans one time and the Popo Pies, and you know, he would put us on these shows. So we sort of started getting some momentum as just this weird band, because you know, we were kind of like, it was like almost like early Peter Gabriel type stuff, because I was way into that era, Gabriel. So a lot of our stuff was kind of like that, and old Public Image Limited, XTC, stuff like that. The edgy stuff didn't really come along until basically after I auditioned for Metallica. So, you know, I remember, you know, from all our friends hearing, oh yeah, Kirk's in this band that's doing really well. I was like, really? And he gave me Ride the Lightning. And I used to listen, I was a carpenter. I used to listen to Ride the Lightning every morning before I went to work. I mean, while I was in the shower, because it would wake me up. And so then when I auditioned for Metallica, I had to learn all these songs. And I was like, well, some of these songs they're very proggy, you know, as far as just lots of changes and whatnot. So it kind of got me in that mindset, and I started adding that to what we were doing as this kind of, you know, lack of a better term, old Public Image, old Peter Gabriel type band, you know. And then Lur came along, and then once Herb joined, it really became a rock band. We thought he was a weirdo. He was a weirdo. He showed up with like pirate pants on and fingerless gloves and a bandana around his head and a trench coat. We were like, who the hell is this guy? And the reason he got his nickname Herb is he had this little fanny pack on. And I remember my stomach was bothering me one day, and he's like, here, try some of these. And he dips into his pouch and pulls out these things and pours these little fucking look like rabbit turds into my hand. He's like, swallow those. I swallowed them down, and I made my stomach feel better, but I was burping up this horrible, nasty shit all day long. And so Lur was like, "Hey, look at that guy. He's there. We'll call him." And Lur started calling him Herb because he had all these herbs in his pouch. It had nothing to do with smoking weed or anything. It was just, so he was Herb the ginseng drummer because he would eat ginseng and all this shit. You know, he was just one of those guys. But he could play. You know, that's the thing is it wasn't like we got together and went, "Well, you know, we're all bros here." You know, it was like me and Lur had our thing, and then Herb was this weird pirate guy with MC Hammer pants on, but he could fucking play, you know, and he's always been able to play. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I've ever appreciated it as much as I have these past handful of years, because he can fucking play. The bottom line is, back then you made demo tapes, you know, and before Todd Huth left the band and Jay Lane, we had made the Sausage demo, which was doing incredibly well. That's how we got so popular. And that's why the band was named Sausage later. But when Lur and Herb joined, I was scared to death because I was in a popular band that 2/3 of it had left. So all of a sudden I had these guys, and you can see there's video footage of one of our shows where I'm saying, "Hey, this is my last show with these guys. Hopefully you'll come see me with my new guys."
Okay, there's been some rumors floating around that members of Primus are hitting the high trail. And it's true, we got some guys hitting the high trail. In fact, I'm the only guy left, so this is Todd and Jay's last gig with Primus.
And it was like, man, we got to sink or swim, so let's make a record as soon as we possibly can. And we borrowed money from my dad. My dad didn't have it. He's a mechanic. He didn't have money. We were living in an apartment together. And he loaned us like $3,000 so we could print up these records. And they sold. So then we made 1,000 more, and they sold. And then, you know, I think Rough Trade picked us up, and then we got college radio. CMJ was the greatest thing in the world for us. It was all so surreal. You know, getting on MTV, we're like, what the hell? I mean, we got on MTV. I remember Kirk giving me shit saying, "Man, how'd you get on MTV? We can't even get on MTV," because we got on with the John the Fisherman video, you know? And so it was just all bizarre. And then being on the radio, and it was almost, that's why we called the album Seas of Cheese. And we had a meeting, an infamous meeting with our during the Suck on This period, with our attorney at the time, who actually just retired. And it was about a publishing deal. And he said, "You know, for this deal to go sideways on you, you guys would have to sell over 100,000 records. Do you honestly believe you'll sell more than 100,000 records?" And we're like, "Yeah, that's a lot of records." But we didn't take the publishing deal, thank God, because we've sold millions of records. The Daytona Beach thing, I did not want to do. I thought it was super cheesy. We said, "No, we don't want to do that." And my manager said, "Look, you guys keep passing on all this stuff, the label's going to stop supporting you." You know, because we passed on a lot of stuff. You know, we never did in-stores, hated doing in-stores, never went to in-stores and signed shit, you know. So on the way down there, I just got pissed. So me and Lur ate acid. And so when you're watching us on that thing, everything I saw was just orange, was just bright orange. And I remember talking to Pauly Shore, and I'm like, and he's all, "Hey, buddy," you know, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? And we met the Cypress Hill guys, and it ended up being a pretty fun thing. And then we flew back that night back up to, I think, Poughkeepsie, New York for the Public Enemy, back to the Public Enemy tour. So we were going from Daytona Beach, which was hot and warm, to fly. We literally, as we were leaving the airport, as we were taking off, the captain said, "Well, the airport's closed in Poughkeepsie due to a blizzard, but we think they'll have it open by the time we get there." So we're like, what the hell? And we had to go in, we had to do one of those fly arounds, you know, which pilots don't like to do that unless something really bad's happening. The plane got almost completely sideways, and we had to do the fly around, and everybody's looking out the window, and it was only just us on the plane. And, you know, me and Lur frying out of our minds on acid. So it was an interesting thing. I am glad we did it.